Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where last episode we designed up and semi-tested this mining segment here. And now we need to do a refinement segment and a foundry segment. I'm thinking about putting one of those here and one here, both going horizontal. So for now, that'll be fine. The main problem is that for one of them we'll need metal ore storage, or rather metal storage, right? So that would be like, this would be metal ore storage, which we have some of that over here. We could maybe have a little bit of metal ore storage out over this direction, something kind of like that. I wonder if we can attach parts to this radially. We should find out. I'm gonna grab this guy. Yeah, we can attach parts radially. Okay, cool. So that looks good. So that's metal ore storage there. Next up, we should have some metal storage. So this is the foundry section. Okay, so we've got metal ore. That's fine. We could even remove the metal ore hex cans over here, but I'm not going to do that because this might not be present when this is, and it probably won't be. So that's fine for now. Then we're going to need some sort of a foundry. So the smelter can probably go in just right over on this side here, just like that. So is that going to require, let's see, that inputs liquid fuel, metal ore, and oxidizer, as we expected. It outputs all of this stuff. So we might want to have like some sort of a waste container. Apparently nothing comes up if we search waste. That's a little odd, because I know that we have waste hex cans. Okay, so under here in life support, like, yeah, there's these waste hex cans here. So we might want to have like one of these, and we could attach that like right there. We could even have another one right over here. So the idea behind that would just be that stores waste. And then, does this need cooling is a question that I have. So, smelter. Okay, so that's this smelter. We previously used like one of these smelters, and I think that's a significantly, I'm wondering about the efficiency here, but it's probably fine. So let's check in on this smelter, pin it. There we go. It didn't pin it for a moment there. So, required cooling of 2 kilowatts on that. Okay, so in that case, we can bring in each of these. We're going with the core heat expert, so that's 250 kilowatts. So we would want to go with probably 2 of these large thermal control systems. We can put like one here and one here. So that would end up being deployed like this. Those are big old radiators, and that's potentially going to take up a lot of space, but that's understood. So we'll retract that. There we go. This has a lot of storage for these waste products as well, which is good. We want to be able to store some of that, but a lot of it's just going to be vented, and that's understood. A lot of this will be recycled by our life support section over here, which is not going to be enough, I strongly suspect. We're probably going to need more life support than this, but that's okay. So the next thing that I'd like to do here is I would like to, well, we need to get this finished. So we need to put in a Clampatron Junior. This is approximately almost exactly the same in terms of length as this, even though it's a little longer, but this is less pushed out over here. So that's neat. That just kind of worked out. I like it. Okay, so we need to attach this right here. There's our docking port. And then we need to have a decent number of these wheel mechanisms. So how many of them are we going to go for here? Well, first off, I want to make sure that we have this whole thing. There we go. And we can attach this here. Perfect. So I'm going to do one here. Is that rotated correctly? Yes, it is. Beautiful. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to put another one out over here, which it decided for some reason to rotate it all the way around. Okay, we're going to put that here. And then I'm going to do one here. And then I'm going to do one here, kind of like this. Hopefully that'll be enough to bear that weight. There's going to be quite a lot of weight there. And if it's not, then that could be problematic. To that end, I kind of want to align our view here and put in... What would a modular girder segment look like? That's too much, right? That's way too low. Yeah, that's way too low. So we could put in cubic octagonal struts down here, with the idea being that we rest on these to help distribute this weight. I want to attach to this attachment point. I'm thinking 2 might be enough, maybe. And I want to attach to this attach point here and this attach point over here. Let's just get that aligned a little bit. There we go. 2 is too high. Let's get another one in here. That'll be a 3rd. That looks maybe a little bit too low. Okay, so we'll do that, and then... Ooh, hello. There we go. We'll do that. I'm going to turn snapping on. We're going to grab this guy, and we're just going to move this up. 1 snap point. There we go. So just clipping the top one in by half. Now I think it's too low. Or not enough. That's too much. Okay. So we're going to have to do this a bit eyeball-y. So about there. And then about there. Okay. And then this last one should be about there or so. I just want to be able to distribute the weight somewhat, you know? Okay, so now we're going to need to grab this guy, and we're going to put this right on over here. This will, of course, need to be rotated. There we go, about there. And then we'll do one about there. One about here. Not like that. There we go. Let's make sure that we're grabbing the cubic octagonal strut over here. And then finally one about here. Okay, so as we can see, we do indeed have an issue here. I was concerned about this. Well, we could simply move this guy over this way and solve the problem that way. Have this be placed about here. And if we do, then I would like this one to be placed approximately here. And then this one should also be moved over a little bit to be about here. Just make it roughly even between them. Okay, that seems reasonably fine. So we'll move this guy on over to about here. That is, of course, completely breaking these struts. Not a huge fan of that, but I guess it's fine. We can move the struts as well, potentially. This one doesn't want to move over because it's attached over here. So for this one, I'm going to undo and undo again. It's going to be a little laggy. There we go. And now I'm going to use the place tool, and we're just going to grab this guy, and I'm just going to place it right about here or so. Approximately. So this is significantly lower than the others, but if we put it up here, it rotates. So that's awkward. I'm going to put this here and reattach it. I'm going to move this guy out of here and reattach that. There we go. And now let's see what's going on with this. Yeah, this one wants to move down as well. And what happened to the struts? Oh, right. That would be the case, because these struts need to be connected like this. They need to be connected from this side to this side. Okay, so that's fine for now. Also, keep in mind, we can change all of these over to being insulated like this instead of having these be like this. I don't know if we can do that with the cubic octagonals. No, we can't. But we can with the modular girder segments, and I kind of do want to do that. I think it looks a little bit better if we do it this way for this particular use case anyway. Okay, so we'll just do all of that for now, and we do definitely need to work on those wheels. So I'm definitely not okay with what we've got going on with the wheels over here. That clearly needs to be... I might even just completely redo it, to be honest. Yeah, I'm going to completely redo this. So let's just remove these wheels entirely over here. That was a little laggy. Okay, let's get rid of this one. There we go. And this one. And keep in mind, we're only building the very, very basic level of colony here. I'm not intending to build the entire colony in this VAB. We're just putting together some basic modules that we are absolutely 1000% going to need. Okay, so I'm going to have these be mounted at what point? It should be mounted at basically the halfway point, right here, right? So this is the altitude that this should be at. As you can see, it wants to put it in at that jaunty angle. So we're going to need to definitely rotate this. That is not the direction of rotation I wanted. Okay. Is that correct? Kinda. Like that-ish. No? Like... Ooh, it does not want to snap to the correct position there. Okay, so in that case, we might want to rethink about what we've got on the bottoms of these. Maybe. This is going to be a bit problematic then. We could just have it like this, but it has to be wheeled because we're going to have a hard time precisely landing this thing, and I'm kind of afraid for these wheels. I think that they're going to have a hard time with the landing process. We might need to change out our wheels that we're using, but that's reasonably fine. So I like this module overall, and I can see that this is definitely still a little high here. Okay, I'm just dropping that down. That's going to be too low, isn't it? It absolutely is. So this is too low. We have to turn snapping off, and I'm going to have this be... Hello? There we go. I'm going to have this be about here or so. Trying to put 25% of this clipped in at this point. Or thereabouts. That should be approximately correct. Okay, so we'll sit on that. That's fine for now, but we definitely need a wheel solution for this. And I'd love to just simply duplicate this and place it right here. Well, actually, it needs to be at the halfway marker. So it needs to be right up over here, right? That does put us at that jaunty angle. So we're going to need to eyeball this rotation, I think. It would end up being something approximately like this. Approximately. Okay. Now, of course, we've got the problem of... well, the strut here. No, the strut is correct. We've got the problem of the space here. So this needs to not be here, but rather back over approximately here or so. Now that didn't actually rotate on us, so that's good. If we take this over and put this about here, that should be approximately the same height. Maybe not exactly, but that's okay. We can adjust it with our hydraulic cylinders. And then this one's not very happy. Okay, so we're going to need to rotate this around. And that's actually correct. That's remarkable to me. I expected that to be at a jaunty angle as well. But I do want to put one more right about here. I want to have a little bit more weight control. Okay, so with that in mind, we can bring this out over here, and this is, of course, going to have to be rotated around. So I want this guy to go right about here. That looks correct on the rotation. And then right about here. There we go. And then for the smelter, we're going to have one right about here. Okay, these rotations are very wrong. Yeah, right about there. And then right about here. Something like that. We should have enough space to do that, in theory. Now, I can see that these aren't very aligned here. They don't necessarily have to be. But I'm going to move this one over a little bit. It should be about there. Now, in terms of verticality, they're pretty close. And like I said, they don't have to be perfect vertically. So that'll be absolutely fine. We'll call that our smelting module. So that looks good for the moment. Now, of course, hang on. We didn't put a docking port here. Okay, we'll call that good for our smelting facility. So next up, what we're going to need is we're going to need our foundry facility, right? We need to make rocket parts. So what do we want to use for that? This is a K&K workshop. This produces rocket parts, and so this inputs electric charge and metal, and outputs rocket parts and scrap metal. That's fine. I'm assuming this smelter has an option to do scrap metal recycling. It does. Beautiful. So that looks good, and I don't think we have too much of a place to store scrap metal, although this will have some of that. So this would be rocket part storage over here, right? We're going to have this be fundamentally similar to what we just put together. So if I can get it rotated, there we go. That'll do. So we're going to put that in there. That's going to be rocket part storage. We could have then scrap metal storage over here as well. But what I really want to do is I want to have, this is going to be a workshop here. So does this have to be crewed? I'm assuming it has to be crewed. Yeah, crew capacity of 3. So that's fine. And productivity factor of 3. So we've got this survey station here. I don't believe that produces rocket parts. Hang on, let's pull that up quick. Yeah, so this is just a very low productivity factor here. That's understood. So, rocket parts. There we go. So, I want to have... How much rocket parts can this store? 1,000. That's probably plenty. So, a workshop here. I'll just set that there for now. Scrap metal. Scrap metal storage is pretty small. That looks good. So, we'll put a little bit of scrap metal storage, if I can get this rotated correctly. There we go. A little bit of scrap metal storage right there. And then I'm just going to put in the workshop here. Cool. Looks like that has an airlock here. So that should be absolutely fine. So this is going to be about turning metal ore into rocket parts. So it should be relatively efficient to do that. I don't know that we're going to be able to support this with this amount of mining. We probably can't. We may need another mining module, but this is all very expandable. So that's very possible to do. We can also like slap in another power module here if we need to later on, although that'll be interesting to get attached. So let's grab a Clampatron docking port junior here. This is going to go here. And I'm assuming this doesn't need cooling. Let's find out. Yeah, I don't see any cooling required there. So that looks good for now. Okay, so I want to grab these cubic octagonal struts. I'm just going to attach them here. They're not going to be at the correct altitude, but let's just attach them there for now. And here, as well as here. Actually, that kind of is the correct altitude, isn't it? I feel like that's the correct altitude, and this is not. Okay. Yeah. Just attach it there. Sounds good. So that's fine. We don't need to worry about cooling. And what about any additional storage on this? Well, we've got rocket parts here. This, of course, inputs metal. And it does output some scrap metal that we can recycle into regular metal. So that's absolutely noted. I don't think we necessarily need any storage on top here. I don't think we needed this storage, technically, to be clear. I wonder if we maybe just sit on these waste hex cans. Instead of having them on top like this, what if we ditched the cubic octagonal struts over here? And we put the waste hex cans down below, rotated like this. Hang on. Like this. That's about the right width. Okay. Yeah. Let's just attach these on here then. That sounds great. That's about right. So we would sit on these. I have no idea what landing on that's going to look like. We might need to have, like, detachable landing legs or something. We'll see. That would be quite a thing. So that would mean that we can do some storage out over here of something. And what do we want to do with that storage? Well, that's definitely an interesting question. We've got storage capacity here. And in fact, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, we can fit 2 of these. We can put this, like, here, duplicate it, and put one here. In fact, it's possible we could maybe even squeeze in 3 of them. I don't know if I want to do that, but yeah, this is very doable. So we can put this about here, and then we can put this about here. That's fine. We can do this, and then put one about here. So that's a lot of storage for waste products, and that's absolutely wonderful. Now, down over here, we can do exactly the same thing. So we can search for hexcan, and is it one word? Yeah, one word. Okay. So what do we want to do here? We could do more rocket part storage if we felt like we needed to. And I'm going to do that for now. We'll do a rocket part storage here and here. And then going out this direction, I don't think we need more of that. We could do additional storage for metal. Let's see. Metal or metal large. Yeah. So we could do additional storage for metal here. But also, this is a little different because scrap metal is smaller. So we really only have 2 additional slots down here, I would argue. So to that end, I think metal is fine for that. Additional storage for metal sounds okay by me. So we just attach this guy about here and then this guy about here, like that. Okay, so now we'd need to set up our wheel situation over here, and this, in theory, wouldn't be all that significant, right? We'd need this to be set over here and be rotated like that. And that's correct. Beautiful. And then I would do one there. I would do one here. And then minimize the game, apparently. I want to get rid of this. Selected the wrong thing to duplicate. So now we would need to rotate this about like that. Place this about here. And then the concern here would be blocking the airlock, right? I'm actually going to place this about here and just have 3 of these. We'll run tests on this later on to see if this is going to be a problem. Some of these may require additional weight, right? Additional weight capacity on these wheels and these hydraulic cylinders. That's understood, but not all of them will, I don't think. So at this point, this is going to be kind of hard to see over here, but I'm just going to grab this guy. We're going to place it right about here, but it needs to be rotated. That'll do. And then right over here, it also needs to be rotated. Hang on, I'm going to duplicate this one. There, that's a lot better. So something kind of like that, hypothetically. So that would be our Foundry location. And that sounds great. So at this point, we have a way to generate liquid fuel. We have a way to generate power. We have a way to generate life support, although I suspect we're going to need more than just this. I strongly suspect we're going to need more than just this life support module. We will very, very likely need further life support modules, and that's fine. So we have a way to generate fuel. We have a way to generate life support. We have a way to generate ore. We have a way to generate metal ore. We have a way to generate metal from the metal ore, and then a way to generate rocket parts from that. Then we need a way to consume it, right? And that's basically the rocket pad. So the unfoldable rocket pad that exists in here somewhere, it's in, I forget what it's called, the launch pad. That is ultimately going to go in here somewhere, right? So let's go ahead and open that for now. And that would need to get attached in one of these locations. So we can see the offsets on it there. If we move it around over here, we'd want to be attaching to the offset that's off to the right, this one out over here. So we'd like this to be attached somewhere like, this isn't wanting to move exactly the way I want it to. Okay, we'll place it here for now. Then let's grab it and place it down over, hang on, what's that attaching to? I don't know what that's attaching to. It's attaching to something. It's not necessarily what I want it to attach to. I want it to attach right here, but it's not cooperating. Let's go ahead and grab a new launch pad here and see if maybe that one cooperates a little bit better. Yeah. Okay, something kind of like that, right? I don't necessarily want it in this position, but we're going to need it somewhere. And you can see this is actually quite low. So this would need to be attached, instead of being attached here, let's detach that, and let's get rid of this for the moment, and then attach this like that. That's much closer to where we want it to be. I don't think that's correct either, though. We could just do what we did before and have it attached via Kerbal attachment system, and ultimately, I suspect that that would be our best bet. Is just place it where we want to place it, and then attach it via Kerbal attachment. That's probably the way to go on that one. So that seems fine. This is basically our base colony here. We don't need much more than this in order to get started. This is fundamentally everything that we need for now. Although I believe that we're going to need a second life support module, but this should be enough to keep us going for a long, long time. I don't intend on this being completely full, right? In terms of job slots here, we've got 4 seats here, and we've got 3 seats here. So this would be, in total, I believe, 7 Kerbals. We've got housing capacity for a lot more Kerbals than that, but this would be approximately 7 Kerbals. Well, it is time to put a cut in here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, and next episode, we're going to start thinking about delivery of some of these modules. That's going to be complicated, because we're going to have to deliver them in a particular orientation, and we're going to have to get them near where we're trying to go. So that's gonna be interesting, for sure. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Dark Horse, Ethan Feldman, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, The Lounge STL, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.